Kansas City, so it's great to meet you. I'm looking
Mm,
forward to getting into the new album and your life and music, so I appreciate it.
absolutely. And thank you so much for the opportunity. It really means a lot.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I love the album, and I want to know before we get into the artistic construction of it, living through COVID was a big deal for all of us, and it really kind of leveled the playing field for a lot of it. And we had to move around and whatnot. How much of living through that influenced this album and the way that you create now?
So it was actually interesting in that, and this is showing how young I actually am. I was in high school when COVID happened.
Okay.
So I spent my last second half and my first 4 months of university in COVID. And the biggest effect was obviously social for somebody that young. That is the biggest impact is now you don't go out, you don't go biking, you don't, walk around in the woods doing whatever. So it really affected that. And for the music in and of itself, I guess it allowed me just the time and place to just listen to a bunch of stuff. I mean, I had been writing music long before then, nothing serious, but it was around that time, especially when I got into university, where it really picked it up. It really became more than just a fun activity. It became something that really resonated within me. And so I had I had the immense privilege to be able to focus on that and to sort of not worry too much about what's going on outside since myself and my family, we weren't too at risk.
Yeah.
So I had the great privilege, and it's something I try to be grateful of. But it did allow me to just write and explore and get better because especially at that age, I mean, how many 17, 16-year-olds are really putting up anything that noteworthy?
Yeah.
Um, so it really just put me in a spot of just, well, what else am I gonna do?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So when they came out at night is the album, and I want to know what was your vision? What was your overarching kind of vision of putting this out?
So for when they come out, it was actually interesting in that I came up with that title 5 years ago. At that time when I was younger, I was writing stuff down, and that title just came up with me. And this was right after I had watched A Beautiful Mind,
Yeah.
um, which was such an incredible and such a, at some moments, devastating movie and a terrifying concept. And I originally wanted to write something along the lines of that, of a sort of mental health experience of that nature. But I never quite figured it out. It wasn't until last year when you start writing and you're like, well, this sounds like something that could relate to the title. And I guess it did relate to COVID in a bit in that going into university, going into New York, there was such the urgency to go outside
Yeah.
and to go out, see people, interact with people again. And I am not the type of person to go out to a club. So I would go out, and those are the things that I see that people do. It's a really big tendency to escape and not in a particularly healthy way. And seeing that, it made me want to find a way to express that
Yeah.
because, and I had grown up with people who had done things like this when they were 16 years old, people who were telling me they know very well that what they're doing isn't good, nor is it healthy, but to them, this is what they know. This is the option, you know, might
Yeah.
as well stick with it.
Yeah.
So I wanted to explore that. And once I think for that song, it was a really big slow burn of just developing my technique and my language, both improvisationally, compositionally, vocally, and lyrically, just so that once I started writing some words, um, the first few lyrics of it and the ending monologue of it, it was sort of that aha moment of, oh, we're actually doing this.
Yeah.
We're actually finishing this song. I thought I was never going to finish it. I thought it was going to be one of those things of, man, that'd be nice if we ever finished that. But now it was like, buckle up,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
you know?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so it was really just, I mean, it's like how Stephen King books are.
Yeah.
There's a little bit here and there, there's some spots, and then goes up right at the end. It
Absolutely.
doesn't stop.
That's a
Yeah.
great way of putting it. So, how did this music journey begin for you? Take me back to where you were born and raised, and what were, how did music become your life, and how did jazz specifically become this world that you're in?
Yeah, great question. I was born in Charlottesville, Virginia, but I grew up in Buffalo, New York. Um, no one in my family is really a musician, but being the son of an Asian father, stereotypically, you and your siblings all have to play an instrument, and piano was the one. I originally did not much care for it, as neither did my siblings, and understandably so. And what started my musical journey, above all else, was actually a piano cover of Hello by Adele. I remember hearing it, and my first thought was, I don't know what this guy's doing, but I need to figure out what he's doing and how to do it. And then later on, a few years after that, I was in North Carolina because my dad grew up in North Carolina. We were in this record store, and I come across this record. It's a black and white picture of a guy with this crazy expression on his face playing the saxophone. And I thought, I don't know what this is, but I have to buy it. It's $10.
Yeah.
And I didn't touch it for 3 months. And I come back to it and I look on the back and I was like, okay, who is this guy? It's some Japanese name I couldn't pronounce. Two tracks. One, improvisation, 42 minutes. Two, Red Dragonfly, 12 minutes. I was like, what is this? Can a song even be that long?
Yeah.
And that was my introduction. That was the start of my introduction to jazz, was
Wow.
through the Japanese free improvisation scene.
Wow.
Was by pure coincidence. I just loved the album. I loved the title and I loved the image of it. And my first thought was, people can do this? A few months later, I discover some bassist who existed by the name of Charles Mingus and listened to beautiful cover of him smoking a pipe with a beautiful wall that says Black Saint in the Sinner Lady. My first thought was, no, I need to know what that is because I love that title.
Yeah.
And it is today probably my favorite jazz album ever because
Wow.
I had never felt something so emotional, so expressive, so powerful, and so vulnerable. I mean, and it was from there I was obsessed with Mingus. I was obsessed with the Japanese like Karu Abe, Yosuke Yamashita, and JoJo. And I would listen to that all throughout high school. That's all I would listen to. All my friends, the biggest musical moment when I was in high school was Travis Scott's Astroworld.
Yeah.
I had, to this day, I have still never listened to that album in full. And that's like, at high school, that was a defining moment,
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, no, Black Saint though. Like, come on, man.
Yeah.
You ever heard when there's a big old tuba going like that?
Yeah.
It's like a bass drop right there from the 70s or the 60s. They were doing that before Skrillex.
Yeah.
Um, so it was those guys and Kamasi Washington when I discovered him. And that was the moment I was like, I need to write something. Because now, after seeing Kaoru Abe, Mingus, Kamasi, I was like, at this point, I don't know what to consider jazz, what not to consider jazz, but it's cool. And I
Yeah.
gotta write something like these guys. I gotta figure out how to express like these guys because they're so unforgiving in
Yeah.
their expression. To like, this is me,
Yeah.
take it or leave it.
Yeah.
This is me. And then from there, it was just exploring more and more and more. And I'm still exploring now.
Yeah. So, what was the first live concert, live jazz show you saw that blew you away?
It was Kamasi. It
Cool.
was February, it was either February 8th or February 9th of 2020. So it was right before COVID
Wow.
at Asbury Hall in Buffalo, New York. I brought two of my friends along, and they told me a few years ago they actually had no idea who he was. I didn't tell them who it was. I was like, "You want to come to this concert with me? It's going to be great." I thought I told him, but whatever. It was $20.
Yeah.
And Asbury Hall, if you don't know, it's a renovated church. This big old church with rows and rows of seats, and people lined up, and Kamasi and his band walk up. Um, and those were some of the most emotionally intense 2 hours I had ever experienced. And I will never forget, it was the last song he played was Fists of Fury. Near the end of the song, there was a whole family sitting about 2 or 3 rows in front of us. And at that point, they were all speaking in tongues.
Wow.
And I am not religious in myself. And one of my close friends who was there is not religious at all. He's very deeply invested in scientific literature. But we walked out, and the first thing we both said was that was the closest thing to a religious experience I think I will ever have.
Wow.
And witnessing people who are feeling that to that degree, because I had grown up hearing about this. My mother and my grandmother are Catholic, and they talk about these deep spiritual moments, my grandmother especially. And I had never really felt that and never connected with me. But watching a whole family, and I mean like a dozen people ranging from 16 to 70, you know, it was utterly surreal. And it was that was the moment where it was I didn't realize these sounds can affect people so deeply and so emotionally. I have to figure out how to do that, to
Yeah.
be able to, even if I don't fully believe or accept it, have someone meet God. What an incredible opportunity, what an incredible privilege to have to be able to give that to somebody.
Yeah.
That was the first jazz concert I ever had. And oh, it gives me chills just thinking about it.
Wow, what a great story, man. And the fact that it was in a renovated church and he is powerful,
Mm,
man. I mean, he's one of those phenomenons because in jazz there's been so many figures. Like Mingus is one of the most powerful,
mm,
motively driven dudes that's ever picked up any instrument.
yeah,
But then you get
yeah.
somebody like Washington that's like new and like everybody just knew. Like when Samara Joy hops on stage and starts singing, it's like people just instantly know there's
Oh
something that gets
yeah.
stirred inside. It's almost like the mystery of something going viral. Like how did it go viral? People are like, I don't know. I kind of like it, but I don't know how it got big. And it's kind of like that when you see something and it
Yeah.
moves you so much. And I think Coltrane is kind of spiritually like that too. He's
Mm,
one of those people that will infuse you with a level of theology, even if you're an atheist. Like it's just you're going to feel it, you know?
100%. And I mean, um, I didn't get really deep into Coltrane until when I started university, but the one saxophonist who has made a huge impact on me, who was a huge collaborator with him, was Pharaoh Sanders. And I remember I remember hearing Promises, the album with floating points in the London Symphony for the first time for in full, because I was reading about it and it was like, you have to listen to this in full. And I was like, okay. And I agree with you. And he's the exact same way to a different degree with different inflections and slightly different language. But yeah, they hold a really strange, but an incredible power, a really incredible ability, where, I mean, it's almost a very similar thing of watching an athlete like Michael Jordan or Lionel Messi play, or watching Denzel Washington or James Earl Jones act and
Yeah.
speak.
Yeah.
You don't know what it is, but it's something up there.
It
There's
is.
something up there that they tap into, like James Earl Jones in Fences. Oh,
Yeah.
man,
Yep.
you know.
Transcendent, that's for sure. So what is it for you that gets you up every day and and that you love the most about being a professional musician? What do you look forward to every day?
that I don't know exactly what I'm going to listen to. I absolutely love that there is always something that I don't fully understand. Actually, everything I don't fully understand. I recently thought to myself, I was like, I don't know anything, but I just simply believe that I just believe in things. And the musicians hang around with, I mean, I'm not exclusively in the jazz sphere. I love hanging around in rock music or R&B or hip hop, and I just played keys for someone in an international showcase where it was a lot of K-pop influence and C-pop influence. It's And this is especially for New York or any large metropolitan city in that, there's the music you like that's on your Spotify or YouTube or whatever that you can always listen to as a reset. But when you're talking with somebody or just walking around, you never quite know what you're going to listen to. You never quite know what's going to be brought up. Um, and that to me is so exciting in that finding something that resonates with me that I would never seen coming. 2 years ago, it was Afro-Cuban music. I am horrible at dancing, but God, I love the music. And my first thought was, I need to know how to play like this. And next thing I know, I'm at Blue Note watching Gonzalo Rubalcaba. And I'm like, how is he doing this?
Yeah.
And more recently, it's been on a completely different world. Deftones, Slipknot, like these bands that are not in the jazz idiom at all. I don't even know if they do listen to jazz,
Yeah.
but they have such an ex honesty in their music
Yeah.
and a completely different set of expressive tools. So, I mean, again, just to boil it down, it's not knowing what I'm going to listen to, not knowing what I'm going to do or going to write or going to feel. It is terrifying some days and sometimes unsatisfying and sometimes disappointing. But nevertheless, I feel as though if I knew what it was I'm going to listen to, if I knew what it was I was going to play, I would be utterly bored. I would have never become a musician otherwise.
So, why do you love jazz?
Same reason I love metal and hip hop, honesty. And it's a different set for storytelling. Um, I mean, it's the same reason I fell in love with Mingus, the same reason I fell in love with Kamasi, Karu Abe, and any other improviser. It's a look into how an individual tells a story. And that I absolutely love, you know. It's again, same reason I love a guy like Jimi Hendrix or Chino Marino. Um, and that is what I'm working towards. How can I best tell a story in a way that makes sense to me, that can also resonate with everybody else around me?
So, at the end of the day, everyone out there has a perception of you family, friends, fans, everyone that knows you, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I would like to, as I keep going with this journey, would like to be a part of the lineage of people like Mingus, like Kamasi. And on the broader scale, people like David Bowie, people like Dennis Rodman, people who aim to find a way of expressing themselves that takes in everything of the world around them and be absolutely unforgiving about it. Obviously, find a way to make it accessible, find it a way so people can understand what it is I'm doing and why I'm doing it. But if I want to sing a certain note with a certain quality, if I want to press my elbow onto a piano, that is a choice of expression. That is a part of the story. I could never forgive or apologize for doing so. And I hope that someone will understand and someone will feel something in that. I want to be a symbol for people of Gen Z, people who have grown up with the accessibility of seeing so many different things with the internet
Yeah.
and using that for good to tell stories of real life in a way that I feel it and the way that other people feel it. Um, because I think that is something that's needed.
Yeah.
And there are some people who are contributing to it across all worlds of music. You know, people like Kevin Son and in pop, people like Billie Eilish. I want to be a part of that.
Yeah.
I believe, I don't know, but I believe that I can be, and I believe that I will be. So intense, emotional, absolutely unforgiving.
Wonderful answer. So,
That's
oh, sorry, there was a delay. I didn't mean to
no,
cut you
that's
off.
all right. That's all right. I'm just saying that's it. That's all there is to it.
That's it. I love that answer. So, if anyone wants to pick up the new album, the best way to do it to benefit you the most, catch you live, anything else going on in your world, where can they go?
Yeah, so for people who want to see what I'm doing, I'm primarily operate on Instagram, so they can find me on Instagram at Cestari, Cestari, with three underscores. That is Cestari. Same name on Spotify. So I'm performing all throughout New York City, but in the spring and the summer, I'm working to put together shows outside of that area. And I'm also in the process of recording a new project. So going in a few different directions, but I'm never letting go of the roots have made me fall in love with music. But that's where they can find me. And yeah, thank you so much for having me on. I
Yeah,
really
man,
appreciate it.
I love running into the fresh blood that's getting out in the world and putting the music out there. I love your stories. I love the vignettes. Such passion. Thank you, David. Thank you for reaching out to the show. I'm so glad that we had this time to talk, and I'm sure down the line we're going to catch up more. So I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for the kind words. And thank you again for taking the time out of your day to just talk to me,
Yeah,
you
it's been my
know.
pleasure. Yeah.